Good afternoon and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Career Opportunities with NRCS's Soil and Plant Science Division. Today we will be hearing from a number of speakers talking about the hiring opportunities with the Soil and Plant Science Division, as well as other employment opportunities within USDA and the FPAC, or Farm Production and Conservation mission areas, job opportunities. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to your facilitator for today, Regional Director and one of the team leads for this Diversity and Recruitment Focus team, Luis Hernandez. Luis, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, John. Hi, all. This is Luis Hernandez. I am with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, Soil and Plant Science Division. So I guess my role here is going to be to move this webinar, move it forward, move the agenda. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Before we get into the agenda and the speakers and the first speaker, I just want to take care of two housekeeping items. The first one is, please enter your questions in the Q&A box. It is important that you do that so we can capture your questions, and if for some reason we don't have time to address all the questions, we will get back to you. So please enter any question that you may have in the Q&A box. And then the last housekeeping item is, at the end of the webinar, we're going to have an evaluation. We're going to have one of the presenters going to cover that topic in regards to the evaluation. So without any other further delays, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. That is Dr. David Limbo. Dr. Limbo is the director of the Soil and Plant Science Division, and he's going to talk to us about what is NRCS, Soil and Plant Science Division, and why should I work for them. So Dave, please.
All right, thank you, Luis. So if we can go to the next slide, and just actually the slide after that would be great. So NRCS has been around really for quite a while, and the names have changed over time. In 1935, there was a major natural disaster, the Dust Bowl. Happened to coincide also with the Great Depression, so we were doubly hit at that point. During the Dust Bowl, though, it was observed, and actually before that, folks realized what farming was doing and how we really had to take care of our land better. So in 35, with the Dust Bowl, Hugh Hammond Bennett was able to work with Franklin Delano Roosevelt and help to create the first Soil Erosion Service, and then it was quickly, the name was changed to the Soil Conservation Service. And then in 1994, Soil Conservation Service was changed to the Natural Resources Conservation Service to really better reflect what it is that we do as an agency. And our role is to help people help their land. Should be noted that the division, the Soil and Plant Science Division, although the names have changed, really has been doing soil mapping since the late 1800s. Our first published soil maps were 1899 from the Salt Lake area, the Connecticut Valley, the Neuse River Valley in North Carolina, and Cecil County, Maryland. And it was all related to helping producers, helping farmers better understand their land and better managing. So we can go to the next slide, Luis. So where we're going is we deal not only with agriculture, we deal with a lot of the natural resources that are out there, from looking at how soils affect hypoxia in the Gulf, algal blooms in, for example, the western Lake Erie Basin, looking at urban soils and how we can help folks there better manage those smaller areas, but equally as important as the large acreage. So we are there to address the water resources, the wildlife, the air, the plant, and the plant resources, and recognizing that soils are the foundation for everything that we do. So remember, without soil, we wouldn't be here. So moving on to the next slide, please. So as we really start thinking, we're here to make a difference. We are part of the environment, as Lady Bird Johnson indicates. we have to think about that. We have to look not only at ourselves, but look back at the environment, making sure that we manage appropriately. We also, as we look around us, make sure that we have a workforce that represents all of us. And that's also part of this recruitment webinar, is to get everybody to understand we are here to make a difference. We are here to make sure we have a diverse, well-trained, good, solid working workforce. Next slide, please. So we are moving forward. We have been around for over 120 years. The name has changed. And we have certain objectives within the program. Inventorying all the soils in the United States. That means by working for us, your job area could be anywhere in the U.S. It's an opportunity to really see the country and work across it. We need to keep the inventory current. That's important because what that means is it is job security. We are going to be around for a while. So keeping the inventory current means constantly improving upon it, getting out into the field and collecting more information. We also provide interpretations, and this is to help people. Our goal here is to use soils so that people make the right decisions, and then to be able to get that information and disseminate it out to anybody who wants to know more about soils. We have one of the, if not the largest, visited website within USDA, and that's the Web Soil Survey. Next slide, please. So again, where are we going? We're not just going out digging holes. We're not just doing that. We are using technology. Drones are coming into play more and more so. So we're going to see that we use those to help collect our information, as well as satellite information. So again, it's a wide range. We do coastal zone work. So we now have a fleet of boats that are working primarily now on the Gulf and East Coast, but soon moving out west into the Salton Sea and onto the West Coast. We look at how plants are going to grow, how they're going to affect, and how they can improve our soils through cover crops, through soil health management, and so forth. We get out in the field. So if you like, stints being out in remote areas, this place is for us. If you don't, we also work in urban areas. In this case, you can see a slide for the Denver County Soil Survey. So we are surveying urban areas as well, and that little device that you see there is not a radar gun. I believe that is a portable X-ray fluorescence device so that we can analyze the soil right where it sits. And again, we use all sorts of technologies in what we do. Next slide, please. So if all this sounds good, which I really hope that it does, please remember our commitment. We are here to serve everyone, which means we need both a diverse clientele as well as a diverse workforce. We're looking to hire candidates from USDA-approved recruitment events such as this, and we're committed to assist with the grants, the development, internship opportunities at diverse institutions, and I know you'll be getting a lot more information about that. Please contact us, talk to us, find out how this can work for you. Moving on to the next slide, please. So opportunities, professional perks. Folks always like to know about that. Career advancement, you can start as a GS1, well, probably if you're coming in as an intern at GS3, but you can move up to a GS15 within the division. That is definitely possible. There is definite career advancement. We work with our positions so that they have built-in career ladders. We travel a lot domestically, but we've also done travel and work internationally. Most recently in Colombia for Cacao for Peace, looking at growing cacao and helping out to understand how soils and plant growth are related. We've worked in Haiti. We've worked in Africa. So we have worked really all over. Training, we will help train you. We will make sure that you are up to speed on the most advanced technologies that are out there. And we work indoors, we work outdoors. Again, if you like the outdoors and working out in the field, this is definitely a position for you. With that, I'm sure that you'll probably have questions as we move on, but I think at this point, I'll turn it back to Luis to go on to our next presenter. So, Luis?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Limbo. I see some questions coming in the Q&A box, so please continue entering questions in that in the Q&A box. I guess I'm going to move to the next speaker. That is Manuel Matos, who is the statewide scientist with Nrcs in Puerto Rico. Manuel is going to talk to us about what is the Virtual Recruitment Toolbox. So, Manuel, please.
Thank you, Luis. The Virtual Recruitment Toolbox, where our division has put together a recruitment toolbox that is available on our public team website. It really contains a number of different relevant subject matters to the recruitment process, including pathways program, pay scales for federal employees, basic requirements for different job series, videos, hangouts, showing what different careers in our division looks like. We're always updating the information on the web page, so check back from time to time to see other exciting additions. In the next slide, I will highlight just a few of the features. One of the features that you're going to see is the Nrcs on campus. You may not know this, but Soil and Plant Science Division has offices in different university campuses. And in the website, you can find a study map that gives a brief description of what those partnerships looks like. Next slide. Another tool that is available are different employee profiles. For staff that work in our division, each profile highlights different aspects, personalities you will work with in the Soil and Plant Science Division. It's a way you can see the diversity that we have in our workforce in order to make the best job possible. Next slide. The last tool that I would like to highlight are a series of videos showing what a day in the life of a Soil and Plant Science Division employee looks like. They represent, like I mentioned, a diversity and range of professions in our division. You can see and have a pic of what's a regular day in an employee. Doing their job in different activities while conducting outreach, providing services, and that's what I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Manuel. We're going to go to the next presentation. We're going to have Mr. Rick Tafoya, who is with the recruitment outreach team of the FPAP Business Center. So Rick is going to talk to us about the third-party internship and initiative. Rick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Luis, and hello, everybody. Again, my name is Rick Tafoya. I work for USDA Farm Production and Conservation Business Center. Next slide, please. So this next slide kind of highlights the FPAC mission area, and you can see there, second, there is the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is the agency that we're talking about today, and specifically in opportunities with the Soil and Plant Science Division. But our office in the Human Resources Division is called the Workforce Planning and Recruitment Section. And among other things, we engage in outreach and recruitment for all four agencies. The four agencies are the Farm Service Agency, again, Nrcs, the Risk Management Agency, and the Business Center, which is where I work. What we wanted to share with the group is kind of the broad scope of the mission area, but today we'll also focus on internship opportunities specific to the Natural Resources Conservation Service. A big part of what we do with respect to outreach and recruitment is trying to find talent such as you across the country that are interested in coming to work for us. But we also have a strong focus in our efforts to try to find diverse applicants as well. Not just ethnic diversity, but also diversity in background and experiences and interests to help bring that talent to our agency's workforce. So, next slide, please. Again, we are under the Workforce Plan and Recruitment section. What we do there includes outreach and recruitment activities, as I mentioned. And again, as I mentioned, trying to bring the depth, breadth of diversity talent to work for our agencies, in this case, the Nrcs. We have a number of technical programs and resources in which we accomplish this, and one of the things that we focus heavily on an annual basis is diversity recruitment initiatives. And these are funding initiatives that we establish with different partners across the country. Many of the partners are universities, some of our land-grant schools, some of our ag universities that may not necessarily be land-grant schools but have strong ag, natural resources, and engineering degree programs. We partner with them to do a wide range of projects and activities. One of those is internship programs. These third-party internship programs, as we refer to them, they're intended to help create a pipeline of student applicants into our workforce. And that pipeline looks like this. Many of these students will work through our third-party internship programs. Then the subsequent year will apply and compete for our Pathways internship opportunities or Pathways recent graduate opportunities. And then ultimately the goal is to bring you on into our federal workforce within our agency on a permanent basis. And so we do that through a variety of different projects and programs that we've established over the years. But for today's purposes, and you can see there on the slide some of the ones that we highlighted that we work on a regular basis. But for today's presentation, we wanted to highlight some internship programs. So next slide, please. And these are it, folks. Our internship programs, as I mentioned, are to put students like you on a career path towards permanent employment with NRCS. One of the programs that we administer, we refer to as the Hispanic Recruitment Initiative, and that's a program that we've entitled the Natural Resources Career Development Program, or NRCDP for short. On average, we bring about 35 to 40 students on per year with this program. As I mentioned, with our initiatives that we have 7 separate partnerships with 7 different Hispanic serving institutions. And for the benefit of the group that may be on this call, the 7 institutions that we work with are University of California, Davis, Fresno State University, University of Arizona, Yuma campus, New Mexico State University, Texas A&M, University of Kingsville, University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, and University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. Those are the current 7 HSI partnerships that we have. So we bring on a number of students, as you can see there, through the party internship program, again, with the intention of the following year preparing them to apply and compete for the Pathways opportunities. I also listed there HACU, H-A-C-U. That stands for the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. That organization has been around for a long time. We also partner with them in collaboration with the department and other USD agencies to host HACU interns. So in short here, to participate in the NRCDP program as a student, you'd have to be attending one of those 7 HSIs that I mentioned. However, to participate in the HACU internship program, that's open to anybody, any student that's interested. And NRCS generally hosts about 4 to 8 HACU interns per year. We also have the Thurgood Marshall College Fund Internship Program, again, another organization that's been around for a long time. NRCS has supported and participated in this program for many, many years. I have 8 to 10, but generally speaking, we bring 10 to 12 African-American Black students on as third-party interns through this program. And the recruitment effort comes from 47 different public HBCUs from across the country. That's where that talent comes from. Additionally, we also have a tribal outreach and recruitment initiative where we've established a partnership agreement with the Intertribal Agricultural Council. We bring on 10 Native American students through this summer third-party internship program. This program is relatively new. Last year was the first year that we intended to implement and bring on 10 Native American students, but we're unable to because of COVID. So we're carrying that program on into this summer. And again, these are annual initiatives, annual programs that we administer every year. We also have an Asian American outreach and recruitment effort where we bring on 4 to 5 Asian American Pacific Islander students for summer internships. And these students are recruited from these different organizations that we have listed here. CAPEL, which is the Conference of Asian Pacific American Leadership, International Leadership Framework, and the Hmong National Development Council. That's the partnership we have, and that's where we recruit those students from. Next slide, please. So those are our internship programs, folks. That's what we were asked to share with you today. Again, these are what I would call feeder internship programs into our Pathways program, which ultimately into our permanent workforce. So for more information, here are some links. The one that's kind of highlighted in rust orange there. Also, as Manuel shared with SPSD Recruitment Toolbox, this link also has a wide range of resources and information for students talking about the different NRCS occupations and what it takes to qualify for the various occupations, as well as some other resources available to you as students looking to apply. There's also a link there for our third-party internship programs, which are the ones that I just covered. Primary contact within our office is Demetrius Boozer, my colleague, and myself. Demetrius is also on the call today. Next slide, please. I believe that's it for me. I'll turn it back over to you, Luis. Thank you, folks, for your attention.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Rick. Again, a friendly reminder to those of you that joined the webinar a little bit late. Again, if you have any questions, please enter those in the Q&A box. So with that, we're going to move to the next speaker. That is Joe Stoiber. Joe is with the 1890s Core Program Coordinator with the FPAC Mission Area. He's going to talk to us about the 1890s Core Program. So Joe, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. And as was mentioned, I do support both the 1890 National Scholars Program and the USDA 1994 Tribal Scholars Program. And those are two programs that I'll visit with you briefly about today, and certainly can be available later if anyone's interested or needs additional information. Next slide, please. I would say that, to kind of give you some conception, I also work with Mr. Tafoya that was just speaking within the Business Center, and my job as well as his is to support all 4 of our customers, but certainly in today's regard and topic, certainly support all the 1890 and 1994 activities that NRCS works with and works with scholars on. These two programs are separate programs, but in the effort of time here today, I'm going to speak to them kind of as a lot of their items and parameters of their programs are very similar. Realize that really one of the most differentiating factors within these programs is really the schools and college locations, and that really divide. But really, both missions, the mission of the 1890 to increase the number of minorities studying agriculture, food, natural resource sciences, and also the 1994, whose goal is to, again, increase the number of American Indian and Alaska Native students that have opportunities in studying agriculture, food, and natural resources. So both them programs seek out students at specific colleges, which I'll cover here in a moment, but we're really looking for student candidates and scholars that are studying degrees that are listed here or similar degrees. Obviously today, those interested maybe working in the soil science division, we certainly want to seek out and find good soil science candidates, but there is a plethora and variety of other series that support and work within this division. GIS technicians, experts, geographers, among other series, technical series that work within the NRCS. Next slide, please. So these programs were implemented through partnerships with the USDA and either the 1890 universities in one instance and the USDA partnership with the 1994 tribal colleges in the second instance. They provide scholarship appointment opportunities through USDA Fellows experience. They offer quote-unquote internships through a Schedule A appointment, so that is a federal employee appointment during these work periods while the scholars are in school. Both of these programs offer now an opportunity for non-competitive conversion upon graduation and meeting certain program requirements. That conversion authority is allowed in the current Farm Bill, and that's what's helped provide really a career opportunity for the 1890 scholars that we invest in and train. The appointment period, ideally we have a 4-year length with the scholar appointments that lead up to the point of conversion to full-time work. But realize with this program, the approved scholars, their tuition and expenses are covered during their time as a student to reach their master's degree, or their bachelor's degree. There is a service commitment. So for every year of tuition payment that occurred while the scholar was in college, there is a commitment to work for 1 year, basically 1 year for 1 year time after they graduate. Next slide, please. So eligible students for this. These are both wonderful programs, and these are scholarships that come up annually. Usually they open up in the October and November timeframe, and the absolute drop-dead cutoff line for these applications are January 31st. So for instance, this year's applicants applied, and the deadline was January 31st, 2021. There will be another application period opening up later this year that will again close January 31st of 2022. Students must be a U.S. citizen. They must have a GPA of 3.0 or higher. They must have admission or be attending either an 1890 HB land-grant university if they're applying for the 1890, or if they're applying for the 1994 tribal university scholars, they would need to attend one of those approved tribal colleges. Again, studying in that field of ag, they need to be able to demonstrate leadership and community service, and then attach with their application an official transcript. Realize that high school seniors can apply for both of these scholar opportunities. There's actually 2 separate applications. There will be one for a high school student. There will be one for that freshman, sophomore, junior student in college as well. Next slide, please. So for the 1890 universities, there's a list of them here, the 19 universities that were identified under that act and incorporated into this program. Next slide, please. And I won't read through all the names, but if you're like me, just providing a little bit more visual will help to some degree as well. You'll see that most of these colleges are primarily located in the southeast or south central portion of the United States. That does not prevent Nrcs, or the Soil Science Division, from employing scholars in any state of the United States. So we host scholars all across the United States, regardless of where they're going to school at. Next slide, please. So for the 1994 universities, obviously a larger opportunity, a larger amount of tribal colleges that are included within this scholar program. Next slide, please. And again, most of them are located in the north, northwest, and central part of the United States. I'll finish up by kind of saying, you know, there are a lot of schools that are allowed to utilize the scholarship program with the USDA. Not 100% of all of those colleges or universities may have a degree program that leads to a series that would be employed by NRCS. But there certainly are a number of these colleges and universities that we work with that do have good curriculums. I was just noticing on the slide earlier with the slide that was shared on the soil science offices on campus. So all but one of those campus locations identified were 1890 colleges as well. So that was an interesting fact I pulled from this group information today. Next slide, please. I think that concludes my time, and I appreciate your attention today. I'll turn it back over to you, Luis.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Just another friendly reminder, if you have any questions, please enter those in the Q&A box. So with that, we're going to go to the next speaker. That is Mr. Daniel Wisty. Daniel is with the USDA Office of Partnership Public Engagement. And Daniel is going to talk to us about the USDA Fellowship for University Faculty, Staff, and Administrators. So Daniel, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. As I mentioned, my name is Dan Wisty, and I'm with USDA's Office of Partnership and Public Engagement. Specifically, I work in the Hispanic Serving Institutions National Program Office, which is one of 3 MSI-focused offices that OPP has. The other 2 are for 1994 institutions and our 1890s institutions. As was mentioned, I'm here to talk to you all today about a little different way to connect with all of the opportunities we have here at USDA, and that's through university, faculty, and staff fellowship programs, specifically today OPPE's Lincoln Leaders Program. Could I have the next slide, please? So the Lincoln Leaders Program is essentially an umbrella term to refer to the 3 MSI-focused faculty and staff fellowship programs that OPPE has to offer. As it says here, those programs are the Booker T. Washington Fellowship for 1890 land-grant institutions, the Terra Preta do Indio Fellowship for 1994 tribal colleges and universities, and then the program that I directly manage, the Iquique de la Garza Fellowship Program for our Hispanic serving institutions. The important thing to remember is that these programs, all 3 of them, are essentially the same. It's just which institutions they're targeting. Can we have the next slide, please? So what I just want to do here real quick is, having identified here that we have these 3 fellowship programs falling under Lincoln Leaders and that they target faculty and staff, is just talk to you a little bit about what the program does and exactly the tracks within it, who they're targeting at these institutions. As it says here, we have 3 fellowship tracks, the education, science, and high school. This is the case across all 3 fellowship programs within the Lincoln Leaders Program. The education and the high school fellowship program function the same. They simply target different individuals. The education fellowship is essentially our catch-all. If you work for a 1994, 1890, or HSI, you're eligible to apply to this program under the education fellowship track. The high school fellowship is the same idea. It's just focused, again, at individuals who are working at a secondary education level, specifically either with Hispanic serving school districts, which are school districts located around the country that essentially meet the same kind of qualifications as an HSI. It's 25% or more Hispanic enrollment throughout the district. That's for the Kika de la Garza program. For the Terra Preta program, the high school district needs to be identified through the Bureau of Indian Education. And then with the Booker T. Washington program, you need to work for a school district that was considered an 1890 feeder. Those programs, including the Science Fellowship program, participate in a week-long session in Washington, D.C. That happens usually in late June of every year. And during that week, participants have the opportunity to meet with senior leadership from every USDA agency and many of our staff offices. And we do this to essentially bring the stakeholders to us and engage in a dialogue where our USDA leadership can talk about the priorities of their respective agencies and mission areas and the opportunities we have going on here at USDA and how we can connect them with schools. But then we have the actual stakeholders from these institutions in the room with us to tell us about what they need and how they would like to partner and what their students could use. And through this exchange, they're able to take back to their institution opportunities that they're aware of for grants or for student opportunities like internships. And what it's really doing is allowing us to have that ongoing connection to the school. You know, internships are a wonderful opportunity, but the student doesn't always have the opportunity to go back to their institution and talk about what they did. Well, by bringing faculty and staff here, we're able to talk to them about what those opportunities are, and they're able to share that with their administration at their schools, but then also, hopefully, years and years of students to come about the opportunities that are available. All three of these tracks come to DC for that one-week program, and as it's currently structured, after that first week, the program ends for the Education High School Fellowship. And this is where we get to the Science Fellowship, which is a more targeted opportunity for our faculty researchers, scientists, anybody working in the scientific field at an HSI 1994, 1890. And as part of their application process, they indicate their research background or what scientific field they're working in and identify what they would be interested to do with USDA. And we have partnerships with Nrcs and with the Agricultural Research Service for those. If they're interested in working with the Agricultural Research Service, they designate in their application what kind of opportunity they'd like to do, the kind of individual they might like to be paired with, and the type of program they'd like to work on. If they're interested in NRCS, we have a partnership with the Soil Science Lab in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so they detail their interest in soil science programs, and we work to place them there if they're selected for the program. They get a second week after that Washington, D.C. week where we send them to the lab, and you have the opportunity to work directly with the host scientist on projects that are, you know, mutual interest to them. And obviously a week is not a lot of time for that. It's really an opening of the door, an opportunity to establish a relationship and to hopefully build off of that into the future. But across all of these programs, what we're really looking to do is connect USDA programming and opportunities with these MSIs on a basis that will be ongoing, which generates for us a network of now hundreds of faculty and staff members across the country that we're able to use to get important information out to our stakeholders and customers, and who also are connected with us and have a means to get challenges and opportunities that their institutions are engaged in back up to us and make sure that we can disseminate that information and utilize it correctly. Next slide, please. So that's the program really in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot more going on than that, but I wanted to try to be as concise as possible. Dates to remember are the application process usually opens in the fall of every year. So applications for the 2022 program will be accepted beginning in fall of this year. And then the 2022 program will run in late June, early July 2022. We are running the program this year, though we're still determining whether or not it will be virtual. And that will be occurring in late June and the week of June 21st of this year. That selection process, that application process, excuse me, closed at the beginning of this month. And we're currently engaged in the selection process now. So it's essentially the time frame we work with every year. Put a web link here that goes to the higher education section of OPPE's website. That has additional information on the HSI office where I work, but then also in the 1994 and the 1890s office. As you can see, I put my contact information. Now, the Terra Preta del Indio program is managed by the 1994 office, and the Booker T. Washington program is managed through the 1890s office. But because I'm the one here speaking with you all today, and I do run one of those programs and help work on the overall program, I put my contact information there. If anyone has questions about the Kika de la Garza Fellowship, the work we do with HSIs, please feel free to reach out. If you've got questions about the 1890s or 1994 fellowship opportunities, please feel free to reach out to me as well, and I'll connect you with my colleagues. Lauren Shorty runs the 1994 program for OPPE, and then currently Mr. Justin Wilkes is the acting program lead for the 1890s program. He's on detail to OPPE from Rural Development. But I'd be happy to connect you with either of them or to answer any questions directly for you that I might be able to. And that wraps it for me right now. Thank you all so much for the time and the opportunity to speak with you about these exciting fellowship programs. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We're going to keep rolling with the program. Our next speaker is Ben Hannibal. Ben is a program analyst with the Soil and Plant Science Division. Ben is going to talk to us about hiring authorities. So, Ben, you have the floor, please.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. I'm going to be discussing two hiring authorities. First one I'm going to talk about is Schedule A. Schedule A is a special hiring authority to use hire applicants with disabilities, including veterans and those with severe physical, psychiatric, or intellectual disabilities. As you can hear, the most common question I get a lot is what counts as a disability? A disability is something that limits one of life's major activities. And people may come to me and say, well, what is a major life activity? And below you can see there is many of those things. This includes also walking, basically taking care of yourself or how you live your life. But these are the major activities that count as a disability. If you can do the next slide, please. So Schedule A is open for all, is used across for all federal jobs in the U.S. government. So it's not just the USDA or the Soil Plant and Science Division. So typically, if you're on usajobs.gov and you see a little wheelchair icon, that is usually open to individuals with a disability. But pretty much all jobs throughout the government, unless it's considered internal, is open to applicants for a disability. So there's actually only one document that is needed to show that you have a disability. And you're going to need a letter from your doctor or medical professional that states that you have a disability and are eligible for Schedule A appointment. So I have it broken out down in here, what needs to be placed into the letter, and it has the to whom it may concern, and I'll let you read it there since it's going to be sent out to everybody. But essentially, you would get your doctor to fill out this letter, have their letterhead, and when you go to apply for the job, you will select Schedule A, and at the end, upload this letter. The key thing I want to, if you ever are interested in applying for Schedule A, is make sure you up that letter to all of your jobs. If you don't up that letter to your job, you may not be considered for Schedule A appointment. But Schedule A allows you to be non-competitively promoted. You don't have to go through veteran preference. The only thing I want to remind, if you ever do apply under Schedule A, it is a 2-year appointment, probationary appointment, compared to a 1-year. Next slide, please. Direct hire authority, which I'm assuming most people are here for, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our direct hire authority. Direct hire authority is a appointing hire authority through OPM that gives federal agencies to fill vacancies with critical hiring needs, waiving the ranking process. Many people are probably curious about the ranking process, but essentially it allows us to promote people, whoever we choose, or essentially not giving people specific ranking. Typically veterans get ranked, veterans preference, also people that are former federal employees. So it allows on-the-spot tentative job offers at recruitment events and job fairs. The purpose of this direct hire is to fill jobs that are needed and in our case, soil scientists. SPSD is hiring 40 scientists right now. In the recruitment flyer that was sent out, you saw locations with links to each of the jobs that you can go apply for. And if you can do the next slide, please. So this authority expires September 30th, 2021. So I believe the USA job announcements will be closing here in July, so I would go ahead and get your applications in. There is also other direct hire authorities open throughout the Nrcs, and these are all science, technology, engineering, and mathematics positions, if you're kind of wondering what STEM means. So right now we have 40 locations that are open. If you do the next slide, please, this will show the job series that we are currently hiring. SPSD is seeking the 470 series, the soil scientists at the 5, 7, and 9 level. Essentially, if you're going to be applying for these jobs, you may qualify at the 5, 7, or 9 level, 40 positions throughout SPSD. When you typically, HR will evaluate at what grade level you will qualify for if you happen to be selected for one of these positions. And if you have questions, please get them in the chat. You also, if anybody would have questions about Schedule A, they're also welcome to contact me via email as well.
Okay, thank you, Ben. We're going to keep rolling with the program. Our next speaker is Ms. Katherine Gerdes. She's a soil scientist in Fort Morgan, Colorado. And Katherine is going to talk to us about my pathways experience. Please, Katherine.
Thank you. Yeah, as Luis mentioned, I am a soil scientist currently stationed in Fort Morgan, Colorado. I was a member of the Pathways Internship Program starting summer of 2018. So just a little bit of background about me. I am from eastern Nebraska, so Omaha area is where I grew up. I studied geology as my undergrad program, and I competed in soil judging for the University of Nebraska-Omaha for 1 year and for the University of Nebraska at Lincoln for another. I found Pathways through a classmate in the same program. He was a soil conservation student who didn't end up converting to full-time, but told me that it would be a really great fit for me and that I should apply for some of the soil science opportunities that he knew were coming that spring. So I did. The positions were open for about 4 days. They were open over a weekend for me. I submitted a resume, a cover letter, and a couple of letters of recommendation from my professors, which I requested about a month and a half, maybe 2 months in advance, just to let them know, hey, I'm going to need something for a natural resources related field. Would you be able to write me a letter of rec for that? And after I got all of those documents in, I kind of had to sit and wait. The openings closed mid-April, and I didn't get an offer from the Nrcs until mid-May, so there is a little bit of a waiting game that you have to play if you're applying for these positions, but the purpose of our webinar today is just to inform you of stuff like that. So I was offered a position in Fort Morgan, Colorado, and then in mid-May they told me that I would onboard, start work as an intern in the middle of June. Next slide, please. So the locations I have worked, as I mentioned, I started out in Fort Morgan. There I was taught basic information about soils, an intro to our database system called Nrcs. We did a field sampling project for the National Ecological Observatory Network on Niwot Ridge in Nederland, Colorado. And for the duration of the rest of the summer, I was sent to any of the field offices in the area just to get an idea of how the field office staff utilizes the information that the soil staff can provide for them. In 2019, they sent me up to Buffalo, Wyoming, where I got to work on a project where we were doing initial mapping. So a soil map for that area had not been created. This was about 20 square miles that we were the first boots on the ground and getting brand new data. We also had a soil temperature study between Wyoming and Montana. Currently, one of the soil temperature regimes has got a boundary right at the Wyoming-Montana state line, and we were looking to kind of refine that. Then the next year, I went to Lincoln. I got more training in our database, Nrcs. We did some groundwater monitoring. I learned how to create soil monoliths, and I learned how to sample properly for soil characterization and for dynamic soil properties. Next slide, please. There were a few challenges that I experienced as an intern. Probably the biggest one was finding housing. 2 of the 3 offices that I was working out of were in areas whose real estate markets were extremely competitive, or where the rental property got snapped up very quickly, and so I had to move really fast in order to get a spot to rent for a couple of months. I talked to a few other folks who were in the Pathways program. They suggested things like checking your social media buy-sell trade pages for the areas that you know you are looking to be an intern. You could look into Airbnb opportunities. The way I found my apartment in Wyoming, I actually looked into the Buffalo newspaper online. So that's an option too. Just see if some of the normal publications in the area that would advertise rentals are available to you through the web. Another snafu that we kind of ran into was financial planning for travel. Full-time employees have got a means by which that they can get their travel compensated quickly, but interns at the time were not eligible for that, and so I had to figure out a means by which I could do that and be compensated after the fact. My boss in Fort Morgan was very helpful with that, and I was able to do that sampling in Netherlands as a result. So some of the other things that troubled me a little were field prep. I was not aware, working in eastern Colorado, that I was going to have prickly pear cactus and yucca plants out in the field. And so for me to be running around in tennis shoes was not advisable. I needed to get a good pair of hiking boots that had sturdy soles so cactus spines wouldn't come through my feet and all of that jazz. When I started, computer access was also kind of a big deal. Almost everything we do is documented online, and when I first came on, it was difficult for HR to get us into the system properly as interns, and my first summer I didn't have computer access, which is why I went to a lot of field offices and got to learn in more of a hands-on way. The other issue I encountered, because my degree was in geology rather than agronomy or soil science, I was going to be hard-pressed to get the proper soils credits for full-time hiring after my internship. My regional director and I worked through a solution and figured out that I could dual enroll both at the University of Nebraska-Omaha and the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, which offered the soils credits that I would need. Next slide, please. So my conversion to full-time employment, my regional director called me and just asked, hey, when do you think you're going to graduate? What's the plan after that? And where would you like to work? Would you want to be doing work within our region, which is pretty much the Midwest, or would you like to go to an area that is doing more initial mapping? Some of Wyoming has still got initial mapping, and a few other states. Alaska is the big push. We just discussed what would be best for me, given my situation, and it was a very informal conversation. It was just to get me thinking about it. About 3 months before I graduated, my duty location was finalized, and I was able to start searching for a house in the area. Then after graduation, I sent my transcripts to HR, and HR sorted them out for me, called me, and gave me a start date. It was determined that I was going to be sent back to Fort Morgan, where we are currently working on the Denver Soil Survey and some other technical soil services, which are opportunities for us to provide information to some of the universities in the area and things like that. That's all I've got for you guys.
Okay, Thank you, Katherine. Next, we're going to have John Andrioni sharing a map that it just shows the location of the positions that we are having right now. So John is a management analyst with the Soil and Plant Science Division. So John, go ahead, please. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Luis. Hello, everyone, again. What I have up on the screen for everyone is a map of our current direct hire locations. I think that this can be a helpful visual. These are the jobs that we currently have open that we're hiring for as the Soil and Plant Science Division. And you can see that also behind the dots, which are the locations of those direct hire positions, you'll see the different colors, which are our regions. So this is how we as a division are organized. When Kat was talking about what area of the country she would prefer to work with, talking with her regional director, you can see Alaska is its own region. The Northwest and the Southwest also have a lot of what is called initial mapping, so mapping the soils for the first time. All these positions are 470 or soil scientist positions, and they are under that direct hire authority, so a sort of on-the-spot kind of hiring which can be done. And I just wanted to take a moment to show all attendees where those positions are. The locations are, again, also listed in the flyer that accompanied the advertisement for this webinar. We have a few other slides that we're skipping through at this time for time reasons that give you some advice on how to apply and how to interview. I sent the PowerPoint to everyone through the Outlook invite. If you didn't receive that, just let me know, and we'll make sure you get those slides as well. I will return it back to you, Luis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John. Next, we're going to go into the Q&A session. Again, please keep those questions, enter any questions you may have in the Q&A box. So for the Q&A question, we're going to have Delta Bell. Delta is a soil scientist in Greenwood, Mississippi. And she's going to facilitate the Q&A session. So Delta, you have the floor, please.
All right, thank you, Luis. Okay, I've actually been assigning the questions to the presenters as they come, but I'm going to read them out in case, other participants have the same question. So the first question that I had was from Austin Funk. He said, I have been trying to get in contact with someone about the Pathways program. I would love to become a soil conservationist. Have had limited luck with getting in contact with someone. Can someone answer his question? I want to say maybe it was for Rick Tafoya.
This is Demetrius. I'll be glad to help him. If you can contact me, if you can put my contact information in the chat, what I can do, you can contact me and I will get you over to the right individuals, okay?
Okay, thank you, Demetrius. If you could, where we have Let's Chat Everyone, maybe put your contact information in there, in the chat box.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the second question is from Lindsay. Reese West, I believe Leslie Glover answered your question, but I'm going to go ahead and read it out. Will you be discussing the direct hire GS5/DI positions during this presentation? I believe we already went over that, so we have discussed that, and John also put up a map to describe, where the locations are on the map. So I'm going to go to the second question, which is Alex Urban. His question was, are current NRCS employees not eligible for these soil scientist direct hire positions at all? What about if these positions still don't get filled with the current job announcements? Would current NRCS employees then be considered for those vacancies? if someone can answer that question. Alex Urban.
Yeah, I'll start out. This is Leslie Glover, and then Dave Limbo, if he's still on, can chime in as well. The purpose of the direct hire is really for NRCS to try to bring in new and fresh people into the agency. So that is really the focus of the direct hires. After direct hires close out, then additional decisions will have to be made as to whether or not we'll put out recent graduate or other type of announcements to fill any positions that we don't fill with the direct hire. But again, the focus of the direct hire is really to try to bring in new people to the agency.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Oh, go ahead.
Leslie, that was perfect. I have nothing more to add.
Okay, great. Okay, second question. I mean, what question am I? Okay, Adam D. Wolf, I believe is how you pronounce your name. Will NRCS be opening up any pathways positions for recent graduates this spring, particularly soil scientist positions?
Leslie, you want me to take this? This is Demetrius.
Okay.
The last conversation that we had with the Pathways Program Manager, because the recent grads, you would be eligible for the direct hire positions. More than likely, the Pathway recent grad positions would probably not be advertised this year that have not already been advertised. So if you are a recent grad, you would be eligible for the direct hire advertised positions that are already being posted. So if you have any questions about any of those positions that are being posted or that would be advertised under recent grad, feel free to give me drop me a line in an email, and I'll be glad to work with you as far as what you would be eligible to apply for under recent grad, and I will be able to show you how you would be eligible under the direct hire announcements.
Okay, thank you, Demetrius. Next question is coming from Katie Hayden. Are there opportunities for graduate students to get involved in the Pathways program? If so, where can we find that information?
I am going to try to find the information for you and put that in the chat. If I'm not successful in getting that to you before that closes, again, drop me that, put me information in, send me the information in email, and I will provide that to you. But I'm going to try to get that information before we get off the line. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Demetrius. Okay, and this is a question again from Lindsay West. It said, what is the likelihood that we would need to prepare for an interview for a direct hire position? I would say that's very high to prepare for an interview.
Yes.
But can someone speak on that?
I will speak to that. So this is Leslie Glover again. So it is very high. With the direct hire positions, we're definitely going to have to talk to you and get a feel for you. And I think you would, agree that is, the best way to do things. So the likelihood that you will be interviewed would be high, but that's a way for you to show us who you are and really show us your skill set and why, you would be better than anyone else. Because I believe that there will be multiple people applying for these different positions. I also see Roy Vick is typing something in the chat.
Yeah, and while this is Luis, while Roy is typing some information in the chat box, I'm just going to say I will agree. It's a very high probability that the candidate needs to be prepared for either a formal or an informal interview.
All right. Thank you, Luis and Leslie. And so the next question is from Adam D. Wolf. Also, are the current direct hiring announcements that closed this July for soil scientists going to be the only announcements for soil scientist positions for the foreseeable future?
Okay, so I'll take that one again, and I can start off, John, and then John or Dave Limbo can follow up. There are actually 100 direct hire positions out there or will be for soil scientists. Understand that the Soil and Plant Science Division has 40 of them. So there are other opportunities besides just with the Soil Plant Science Division, though that's who we're recruiting for. We would love to have you as a part of our team. But as I said earlier, I think the agency is going to have to reassess where we are after these direct hires close. We haven't mentioned this yet on the call, but Nrcs actually has 1,500 positions that we're advertising all over the country in a lot of different fields. So soil scientists is not the only one. I think we had a graphic in our presentation which showed some of those positions. But understand, there are quite a number of positions that are out there, so the opportunities are not small. So John, if you wanted to add to that.
Yes, I just wanted to read off Roy's answer to this question also is in the chat, and he says that right now, yes, direct hire is only recruitment until the next Pathways recent grad announcement, which is possible in fall of 2021. And then I wanted to also add, Demetrius did post the resources for graduate students under Pathways. I will take a moment to also note the Presidential Management Fellowship, which is specifically geared towards graduate students. And is it through the Pathways program. If you have any questions about the PMF program, you can contact me. I've gone through that program. So happy to speak to the experience, Katie, if you're interested. Back to you, Delta.
Thank you, John. If you could just put your information in the chat box as well so they could, contact you, John, if that's okay with you. But I believe as of right now, that's the only questions that were given at this point. If there's any more, I would definitely let everyone know on the floor. So thank you all, and I'll give it back to Luis.
Okay. Thank you, Delta. Let's do this. Let's give the audience at least a few seconds, okay, that there's any questions out there. So if you have any questions, just type it in the Q&A box. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds, just in case. And if I don't see any questions coming into the Q&A box, I'm just going to go ahead and move to the next speaker. Okay, so I don't see anything. So I guess that I said early in the webinar, we're going to need you here to do an evaluation of this webinar so we can do much better next time. We're going to have Mr. Charles Comey, who is a soil scientist with the Soil and Plant Science Division. So Charles, I'm just going to give you the floor so you can speak about the evaluation. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Luis, and hello, everyone. I'm Charles Comey from the Soil Services and Innovation Branch of the Soil and Plant Science Division. We need your feedback to help us know more about you, and so we can help and convince you to become part of our team. We also need your input to help us improve upon what our recruitment efforts are doing at this time. So as we wrap up this webinar, please take a few minutes to complete the post-webinar evaluation form by clicking the light blue button right on top of your screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Charles. With that, I'm just going to turn on the floor to John Androni. So John is going to share a few closing comments. So John, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Luis. If all the rest of the presenters could mute at this time.
Hey, John.
Yes.
This is Demetrius. I just realized that what I put in the chat was for OPM's pathway program, so I was trying to get the correct site for that. So in answer to that question, that is the wrong site. So I am trying to pull that correct information, and I may not get it before we close, but I wanted to correct myself, okay? So I am trying to pull that quickly.
Thank you very much, Demetrius. We'll make sure that's sent along after the presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm just going to take a second for our presenters to mute their lines. All right. Well, before we end today, I want to just show you a photo of the diversity focus team, which helped bring you today's webinar. You can see all of our wonderful faces here. And our contact information is included on the slides. Each name is linked with our email address. This is yet another way you can contact us. We do have a focus team website that you can also go for more information. And here's where we all are. We're all across the country, so we bring a diversity of perspectives to the Soil and Plant Science Division. Feel free to reach out to any of us with more information. All right, and I will also mention that Leslie Gover, who's one of our co-leads, did put the link to the evaluation in the chat. Please go and start that evaluation as soon as this presentation is completed. We really appreciate your feedback. All right, I'm going to move to our last view to end today's webinar. For those of you who asked, yes, we have recorded this webinar today, and it will be available soon on the NSSC, or National Soil Survey Center's YouTube channel. That link there in the upper right is where you go to find that recording once it has been posted. Please wait about 24 to 48 hours to allow us time to take the recording and post it onto YouTube before you go and check to see if it is available. On the upper left, we have the flyer, again, that lists all the open USA jobs links that will allow you to apply to the direct hire. I recommend just sending your resume and transcript to any of us who presented today and shared our contact information. That is another way you can apply for direct hire positions and indicate your interest into what locations you're interested in applying for. And with that, I believe this concludes today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe day. The webinar has now concluded.